Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how you can use the road tool. So here in Unity I have a very simple project, and of course the first thing to check is the Houdini engine. So here I have the Houdini engine and I'm currently connected to the engine. So the other thing that we need is our tool. So I have a road tool and I can just load it in here and drag and drop in my scene. And as you can see, it immediately is going to calculate here in my scene. Now let's go over some of these settings and change some parameters. So the first thing to check here is the game engine. So by default here it's set to Unity, so that's fine. And then here we can use a custom input. So currently this is sort of like a hard-coded layout here, but of course I want to use my own layout. So what I will do is I will add some cubes here. So I'm just going to right click, add some cube here. And with this cube, I can then stretch it like this. And this will then be my new roads. So to give this also a better view, I might give this a material with opacity. And then here, we can then now use our menu here to input certain models from Unity. So there are three ways on how we can do this. We can just add a slot here, and then we can drag and drop, for example, the cube here. And currently this is not working specifically, and I'm also going to set here the first transform options into this object, so it's going to make sure that it will calculate the pivot offset here. So here I have the main cube, so if I would move this, it will also update, but in here it's not doing that automatically. So we can enable this automatically by actually going into the asset properties, and we can actually bake here on a transform. So if you enable this and then click back on the box, you will actually see that it will now instantly follow, and we can in real time now create this road. So if I would even rotate this like so, if I put this on the side, we can then create roads. So of course you want to create a more complex road system for your world, so you might need more cubes. So let's copy paste another cube and let's create something like this. So let's say we have here like one big road, and I want to add this then in my tool. So we can continue adding slots, or we can also do add selection. So with this add selection, it will open a menu and it will basically show all the objects in your scene. So you can just here easily click objects you want to have as a input. There are two ways of doing that. So again, we can just simply add slots. So in this case, I only have two objects, so I can just do it like this as well. And as you can see, now I have my two boxes here. So I can start blocking out my roads like so. And for the moment now, I'm done with my roads, and I can, for example, hide this, and I can see I have my base layout here for a certain part of my world. Then let's further continue here with settings. So the first setting here is the platform size. So this is 50 by 50 units here. So I can, for example, make this a bit smaller or make this bigger if you want to build a larger world. So we can play around with the size here. Then next up is the border thickness. So as you can see here, we have this border, and then we can make this larger or make it a bit smaller. We can also do a beveling of the border. So let me zoom in a bit more here. So as you see, we can do a bevel of this border. So we can make this a bit more smoother, and we can also add more divisions here to make this more smoother. And we can also do a overall corner division here. So if this is too low poly for you, you can easily like smooth these corners out with some more topology. So next up here is then road lines. So these are the lines here in the middle. So we can do some offsetting. So we can lift them a bit up or put them more down. We can then have some spacing in between them. So we can create multiple road lines, as you can see here. And they're automatically here when we have intersections, they are deleted. We can play around with that. So let's say I like this one. And then we can also change here the road lines or spacing. We can have larger ones, or we can have lots of smaller ones. So you can tweak these lines as you want. Then we also have some geometry output options. So this is the normal angle. So if you put this, for example, to 0, we will see every single polygon has different smoothing. If you just put this a bit higher up, we will have more smoothing, as you can see here. Then we also have here a mesh collider. So if you want to have a mesh collider, we can just enable this, and we have a mesh collider for this object. Then we also have some UV settings. But before I show the UV, maybe let's view a certain material or pattern here. So let's go to the material. And currently I have 4 materials for the pavement, the roads, the border, and the line. So these 4 materials make up this geometry. But we can also override with one material. So let's do that. And I've by default placed here a checker pattern here. So under my materials here, I have a checker pattern material with this texture here. So I can just check the texel density and things like that. And also in the vertex color, I'm also saving out colors. So if you don't want multiple material IDs, you can also store information in the vertex color if you want that as well. So here now I have this checker pattern. We can also easily plug in other materials. As you can see, we can click on this menu and add custom materials. We can now actually go to the UV and see our UV. So here I have overall scaling. So if you want to scale this up or down, we can do that here. We can then have the road separated as well. So if the road needs to be more dense, we can change that as well. You can also here have then the pavements. And also important here is the border. So the border is pretty dense right now, as you can see. Like they are very different in texel density. So we can, for example, make this a bit larger. And then we also have like the road lines here, as you can see. We can then tweak that as well. So we have individual control in the scaling of each of them. So you can tweak them to what would fit your materials and textures the best. And that's basically how this tool works. So we have our base settings here to tweak this road. So again, we can always go back to our input boxes here. And let me bring them back here. And then we can just play around with them and tweak more. So we can just keep adding them. Like we can even make a more complex situation, like something like this here. This is a more complex intersection. So let's just add a slot here. And then we can here make a more complex situation like that. We can then output this result. So we go to bake, and then here we can bake to game object, prefab, or we can just delete the output, or we can update certain prefabs. So it's up to you if you want this to be a game object or a prefab. So that was basically it for this video. So now we have a basic road, and now we can start placing, for example, down buildings. So if I have another building generator, I can here easily start placing down my buildings and start building my city, as you can see here. And this is also, if you keep the tool active, we can also make changes now and then. So at the moment I have not baked that result, I can always go back to my cubes here and I can start playing with that. So we can go back and forward. If your tool is still active, you can just easily go back and forward and start building the scene you want. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.